Hey everybody, JennaK here. So, I've been asked as a therapist, I'm no longer a therapist, but I've been through some things in life and I'm still struggling. And it's hard to put into words what it feels like to have trauma. So, you know, a lot of people have judged and questioned, and you maybe don't understand what I'm struggling with. So, I stumbled across this session. This is actually me, so I can give consent. Um, it was actually done by Chaplain Ringo, who is the military chaplain that helped me in so many different ways, as well as Dr. Robert Bray, who was developing at that time a modality called thought field therapy, which is tapping. So, it didn't really work for me, but so I kind of fast forwarded through some of those parts. But this was 2011, maybe early 2012 when I did this session. So it's genuine and it's real. Trauma is a hard thing. Sometimes you get control of it, sometimes you can't. I'm not sad about it because I understand it. I've done a lot of work on myself where I've gone back to understand how I was in that position in the first place. And that's made me stronger. It made me a very empathetic therapist because I could relate, and everybody has different symptoms of trauma. So I'm going to share mine, and this isn't the whole story. It was originally about how, being involved as a military spouse, there are very unique things that we deal with, right? So, in a lot of ways, I even, I make excuses throughout the whole thing because I didn't really understand it. So, this is an ongoing story and it's a long one, but I thought I would share maybe a look, just a view of kind of what trauma looks like. And I skipped through a couple of the, blurbs. It's broken out into a lot of different parts. There's some things that um, I talk about other people, and it's not fair to share their story. They asked me a lot about, what I thought other people experienced. And that really kind of wasn't fair, because, and you can see me kind of hesitate because it really wasn't for me to say. I could only speak to what was happening to me. You can see throughout where, I'm trying to make sense of it, right? I'm trying to make sense of how everything played out. And it didn't end there. And a lot of it was, me just not feeling comfortable about saying it because I didn't really feel all that safe in my environment. So anyway, I thought I would share, and I'm not sad, but I wanted somebody to be able to see. Okay, and for those that are questioning whether these things happened and why maybe I have made some decisions, it's because when you have trauma, this was 15 years really of my life of layered up, shutting down, not hearing all the negativity. Abuse is abuse. It took something catastrophic, the physical abuse, to get me to leave. But there were years of emotional, psychological abuse. And there's a lot of things that go back to my childhood. And that's a whole different story. So the whole purpose of this, and I'm not a very good editor, so I don't know how to do the picture in the picture and do the commentary. So what I wanted to do is just at least do an intro. This is what PTSD for some of us looks like and what it feels like. I wasn't a therapist then, but, I used some words and I thought I did a decent job trying to explain how it felt in those moments. So, here it is. I'm going to probably do some more about this because I'm very passionate about it. It was during those early days where the military was starting to recognize that trauma was a real thing. So thank goodness to the Department of Defense for starting that, to understand that those experiences for those military folks were traumatic in a way that really does change them. Now, my husband was a whole different ballgame. It wasn't really related to the military. It goes way, way back, and I didn't learn about that until way, way after. But this is how I was feeling in those moments during this session. So I give consent. because the session is me. It was my story to tell, so I figured out I would share it. So please subscribe, please do like, please do share, follow along, because there's going to be more. There's just so much. I didn't know where to start. So, the last couple of days have been very difficult for me. So, I see the monsters in my head. I see the monsters when I close my eyes, and I see them sometimes even just thinking about it. But I'm okay because I've got coping skills, I've got a good support network, and I work myself through it. But it still has, you can see this profound effect. So, trauma, don't tell anybody to just get over it, because we don't just get over it. We learn to deal with it, but sometimes it just hits you like a frying pan and you just have to work your way through it. We need time. We don't want people to fix us. Sometimes we just need to get it out in the universe. My poor Chihuahua, I don't know where she is right now, but she's the best kind of listener and snuggler, and sometimes that's just what I need to do, is just get it out, and then I'm okay. So we don't want, when we're having flashbacks, for you to fix us, because that doesn't work. And the last thing you should do for somebody who has trauma, there's a whole module. I mean, as therapists, medical providers, we're supposed to be trauma informed, which means we presume that everybody in life has experienced trauma, and what we shouldn't do is do things that maybe will bring that out. So don't ever tell anybody just to get over it. We don't just get over it. So here it is. Have a good day. So I don't know if I'll do an outro or not. Like I said, I'm on YouTube. I'll probably show this whole video on YouTube. I might do some excerpts for some of the other social platforms. It's an important topic. It is real. So this is it. This is my story, and it's mine to tell. So here you go.
What precipitated it? Do you know? Or
No reason. He just drank all day long, got angry for no reason, picked a fight, decided I was bad. I was not supporting him because I didn't want to go to another neighbor's house to drink more alcohol, because I could see the warning signs. The way I dealt with it in the past was, okay, I could see when it was coming. He had a very distinct look in his eye. When he'd had too much, it would click and I could see it. So my way was, okay, take my daughter, we're going to go to bed, we're going to go get out of the environment, let him just do what he had to do, because there was no stopping him when he got to that point. On this particular day, he decided that he wanted to go to a neighbor's house they were going to continue to have a party after our party was over, and I said, no, I've had a long day, we've been out in the sun all day long. We live in a place where it was 105 degrees during the day, and I'd had 15 little kids, and I'm a planner by nature, so I'd spent days getting this party ready for my daughter, and I could just see it was going to get ugly. So I said, no, I don't really want to go. I don't want to go. And it turned into, you're not supporting me. You need to go and support me. And I said, no, really, I really don't want to go. And it got ugly really fast. I got thrown against a wall. My thumb got broken. I was able to get away, and I went upstairs in part of our house, and my daughter was not there, but we have windows. If you look out our windows, you can see into their house, and if they look out their windows, they can see into ours. My daughter and her friends were up in their playroom and saw him chasing me through the house. At one point, we ended up back downstairs. I was trying to get away, and he had thrown me over a bar stool, and I kind of landed on my side, and I looked up over my right shoulder. He had his fist raised. And I've never seen such a mean look in my entire life. This is the monster I see in my head. By the grace of God, I turned to my left and got away. Had I not gotten out of the way, this man would have killed me. He had no remorse. He did not care. His whole entire purpose at that moment was to hurt me. I got up and got away and called the police. The police came, guns blazing, the whole neighborhood saw. It was lovely. But they took him away. But as he was sitting in the back seat of the police car, the police saw it. It's probably in the police record. He said, I will kill you. At that moment, he didn't care who I was. He didn't care. who saw his whole purpose at that moment was just to hurt me.
Now, you said you don't even know. He doesn't remember this at all.
He claims he doesn't remember.
And you knew that he had been drinking and
He'd been drinking all day long.
and taking his medication.
At that point, he was not on medication. This was before he went and got help for PTSD, before he'd been diagnosed with anything. This was just plain alcohol.
Okay. A lot of it.
A lot of it. In a big bad way.
So, as you're talking about this, you said that you don't have an idea what those service members go through in Afghanistan or Iraq. But what you just described is what they go through. Because what just happened to you is the same kind of life and death event that causes post-traumatic stress disorder.
And had I not gotten out of the way, I probably would not be here today.
So, you do understand some of that. Now, having had that experience, are you okay? Do we need to tap the thing down?
I'm okay. It just that takes me to a very raw place.
But actually, what Bob said for all of us to understand is, especially in Iraq and in Afghanistan, one day they go to a home that they think is a friendly home that's been helping them out with pointing out Taliban or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, they go there and they're ambushed and they're at the thought of losing their life.
And I can completely relate to just get out of there, just get to a safe place,
Yeah,
just get safe. And
we've heard that from multiple members as well. So what Bob's saying is you did it really experience very similar to what they experienced. 1 minute's a safe environment, next minute that safe.
my life changed in an instant.
Right.
And how would you say it's changed?
My life has gotten so bad, so fast that I can't deal with it all. I just can't cope with it all.
And that again is what happens with post-traumatic stress, is that it's like.
And I feel it. Somebody asked me to describe how I felt at that moment. It's like when you have a rubber band and you pull and you pull and pull and it can only give so far, and then you start to see it give and then it snaps.
Yes.
I felt that snap.
Yes. Okay. So, right now, you felt that snap. Okay. And do you feel like you've begun to heal from it, or does it feel like that you're never coming back?
There are days where I feel like I handle it better than others, but it's still very, very raw. And because he is still geographically right here, when I see him, it makes it come screeching back.
How's your breathing right now?
Um,
Are you in your body? Are you in the room with us?
I'm in the room.
You're in the room.
I
Are
am
you
in the room.
Body?
Yes, I'm in my body. I'm breathing.
If it gets to be too much, we tap it.
Okay.
But this is great stuff, what you're saying, in terms of explaining what it's like to be there, because I've never been there, and I think most people who live the kind of blessed life that we live here in America have never ever been there either. So I think for them to understand in these terms is very important. So you're saying that rubber band snapped. And
It did. I can't even tell you. You know, you hear that ping, and I feel like I live that ping when I think about what happened to me. And a lot of it is that when I close my eyes at night, sometimes even during the day, I feel myself, because I spun this ironically when I got away from him, I went to the left. I feel myself wanting to go to the left.
No, that's the body learns something in that moment.
I want to go to the left to get away, you know. And I don't know why that happens, but you know, I've been trying to, you know, through therapy, you know, try to evaluate why I react to certain things or how I react to certain things and how to cope with some of the things that I'm going through, you know.
It's important to try to make sense out of this.
And how I got to where I am has been very enlightening. Someone else.
Well, thank you for being willing to do this with us.
You're very welcome.
Now, some of the things that we've discussed in the past are about how the military families are affected. And now that you've been a military spouse for the better part of
20
career.
years. 20 years.
20 years.
Married to the military, yes.
And so your husband is a Marine, and he's not only just a Marine, he's a Marine, recon, ultimate Marine, scuba, parachutist, and sniper for the Marine Corps. And those things got to add to the added stress of just even the normal Marine family who are aircraft mechanics or whatever else. But do you know how it might have affected you, and the fact that your husband's not only a Marine, but also in the
Special Forces.
Special Forces?
I was actually married to 2 Marines. I was married for 10 years to a gentleman who was a radio repairman. He was a Marine, enlisted, and when he deployed, it was a whole different situation. I knew he was going to be in a safer environment.
Were we aboard that time?
Yes, he was during the first Desert Storm, the early 90s. Then I married a second Marine, my current husband. He's done Special Forces his entire career. And it is a whole different ballgame because they're going to be on the front line and exposed to things that somebody in an office environment wouldn't be exposed to. The risk is much higher for somebody that does what he does, as opposed to somebody who is behind the scenes doing paperwork or repairing gear.
Let's start with where you are right now. You are holding it together today, but you are struggling to hold it together. And holding it together for you means being able to sit there and not cry and be able to engage in a conversation that makes
Difficult,
sense, right?
yes.
But it's hard for you to do that. So let's do a little TFT to see if we can't help you feel a little better about being here right now.
Okay.
Because as you get
It's a treatment to help alleviate the overwhelming, having been a lot in similar situations.
Okay.
So Dr. Bray will work with you on that right now.
So let's go back and pay attention to what's happening right now in this moment for you. There's a lot of things that have happened over the last couple of weeks. I know you're under a lot of stress, but right now, the important thing is for you to be able to be present with us right now, and that means you've got to come fully into your body and experience what it is to be the biggest. What's in your face right now that's so hard?
Just the fear and
Keep going. I'm looking for my Kleenex.
Should have started with the fear of
not knowing what my future holds, pretty much, is the whole extent of everything. Everything is based on my not knowing of what, or not having a plan and not knowing exactly where I'm going.
So, and I know that that's gotten more uncertain for you, but right now, just feel the fear in your body as you feel it right now. Can you tell me where you feel it in your body?
In my chest, everything is right here.
It's kind of constricting.
It's constricting, yes. It's very paralyzing, yes.
Okay, on a scale 1 to 10, with 1 being no fear, no constriction, no anxiety at all, would be a 1, and 10 would be the worst you can imagine. Where would you say that fear is right now?
It's been worse, and I'm functioning, so it's probably an 8, not a 10. I wouldn't say I'm quite at that level.
So we're going to just try some basic tapping. It seemed to work very well for you the other day.
It did, it worked well.
Have you been able to do any tapping since then?
Yeah, I do it a lot because of the
Body now.
I feel a little more relaxed, yes.
Can you give me a number 1 to 10? Around you and putting the bands on. You are going to continue. So that we'll see if we can become more efficient, because you've just been using the standard tapping pattern. Become more efficient. Clearly, you're under a lot of stressors, and those stressors are there because you're in the midst of working this out with your husband. Have you decided? Are you going to stay in the marriage? Are you getting out of the marriage?
No, there's no possible way at this point. There's too much.
What did this war do to your marriage?
It took a person that I really thought I knew very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
and took him away and brought home somebody I don't know.
Because you were in love with him.
Once, there was a lot of things that contributed to it at this last deployment. The man that came home was not the man who left. And there's this person I don't even recognize. They created this. I don't blame the military. This is what they do. But they created this monster of a person and then sent him home for me to deal with. So I have a lot of anxiety and resentment for the military. I know it's for a great cause, and I know he did a really, really good job for them in a lot of regards. But the person that left is not my husband and came home with somebody completely different.
Have you heard that from other wives similar to?
I've heard it a lot, that not only because, they're gone for long periods of time, they're changed. They couldn't possibly come back the same person after some of the things that they've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't actively get involved with a lot of the other wives. But the ones that I have talked to, a lot of them are on the same page where, you're really, really not really, really sure who's going to come home after they see some of those things.
Right.
And a lot of them come back with issues with alcohol. They come back with issues with drugs. They come back with different personalities.
Now, when you say issues of alcohol and issue of drugs, what are you specifically referring to?
And for example, for my husband, he numbed himself through alcohol. And the last deployment, from the time he got off the plane, from coming back from the deployment to the time where things fell apart for us, I don't think he stopped drinking ever. Because I think it was maybe a way of him coping or numbing his feelings or forgetting about some issues. I don't know. We had been through short deployments before, but never one for such a long period of time. I miss who I thought he was.
No, he was that man. Don't second guess yourself. You fell in love with somebody and married somebody who was right for you at that time and place in your life. Don't go back and because it's not working now, make yourself wrong for all those years. I'm telling you what to do, and I really shouldn't do that because it's not the therapy thing to do. But it's bad enough you lost it. You don't have to believe that it was never there.
I would like to think and believe that it was there. I don't know, because he'd been in the military for 10 years before I met him. Mm-hmm. I don't know that who I met and fell in love with was really who I met and fell in love with.
So now there's some questions to
There's some question
from after 10 years in the military, whether he was able to offer you an honest, transparent sense of himself.
Exactly. I think he presented himself in the way that I think I needed, that he wanted me to believe. Mm-hmm. Do I know with that 100% certainty what I got is what was really there? I don't know.
Okay. That's one thing to look back and say, did I, really get the information? Was I connecting? But don't second guess your choices. Given the information that you had,
I made the right decision for the time based on what I believed at that time.
And it's very important that you not somehow turn this, the fact that it didn't work out, it worked for a while. And it sounded like it worked well for a while. So I'm always interested in this question. Are you feeling okay?
I'm okay. You can keep going.
Okay, well, if you start to feel that tension or you start to feel like it, one of the questions that I always ask people when I'm doing either marriage counseling or divorce counseling, they're coming in and they're talking about it's not going to work. When they tell me it's not going to work, I often say, when did you know it's not going to work? Do you know, is there a time or a place where you sort of said to yourself, this isn't going to work? And was that when you got married? Or was that couple years into it? Or was
No,
that-
it was the day I got
Specific
married.
event, or-
It was a specific event on the day I got married. I mean, the day, my wedding, between the wedding and the reception. I can pinpoint, and I should have ran for the hills that very, very day.
Now, that's not unusual to hear that people say, something happened and I was going, whoa, but you weren't in a place to be able to listen to yourself.
I wasn't. I was very, invested by then. You say I do.
Mhm.
Okay, you have some responsibility. Okay, now what can I do to fix it?
Mhm.
And we got married, and right after that happened, 6 days later, he was on a plane deploying.
So that's where it started struggling. But you did manage to stay in the marriage for 10 years
Yeah.
until this last, he came back from this last deployment.
We did. A lot of it is because I was a single parent, technically, because he was gone a lot. I was a housewife. I didn't have financial means. I wanted to make it work.
Mhm.
And there were times where he said, I promise. I promise I will do it differently. I understand I made mistakes. And I went, okay, I want it to be better this time. It'll be different this time. And it just never was different this time.
And so when did you know it had to end? You knew it wasn't right at that point, and which often people can do that. But when did you come to the decision that it would end?
We had a catastrophic domestic violence episode where they came and got him and took him away. So that was the pivotal moment, or I probably would have still stayed. It took something catastrophic to get me to leave.
So it was that level of physical violence,
Yes.
or a threat of physical violence, that said this is where I draw the line.
Yes.
And was he self-medicating at the time?
He was drunk, probably doesn't even remember anything that happened.
And had you noticed that this was after the last deployment? Is that what this was?
Yes.
Had you noticed his need to self-medicate? Was he having demons at night, or nightmares, or
He had had
traumas that he
nightmares
had expressed with you?
during our whole relationship, off and on. Certain things would bring it out. Normally when he drank a lot. He'd had problems with alcohol virtually our whole relationship. But when he got back from this deployment, it was really bad. The propensity for violence, the anger, everything was amplified in a way that it hadn't been before.
That's one of the things that happens.
I could see the buildup. This time was dramatically different and more intense than any of the other deployments.
In your statement of there was one deployment too many, I think last time was, really right on in terms of describing how we got to this point.
Yeah, and I think, where he was able to at least control his drinking a little bit in the past, this one just took him way over the edge.
Now, what's the feeling that's coming up as you think about, is it the incident? Are you back in that place, remembering that? And do you have a picture of that in your mind right now? Okay. And when you bring up that picture in your mind of that particular event, do you feel what happens in your body? That's good enough. Okay. We'll call this a 9.5. If you will, just look and just tap with me. It's okay to cry. Don't worry about it. The tears are honest tears. Okay. And then we're just going to try the standard thing again and see if we can't find something. Look from index finger. Count.
1, 2.
Come again. Tap side again. We're not doing exactly the standard pattern we did last time, but this is a little more specific to what you need. Little finger. Now,
Less anxiety.
can you give me a number?
Probably 2. With the monster that
So you saw him
I saw him.
as a monster. You didn't see him as the man that you were married to, you stuck with, you loved.
I have never seen somebody so angry in my life.
And so that's what you saw, was the anger coming out of him. And when you saw that anger, that was like, I can't deal with this.
When I close my eyes at night, that's what I see.
You still do that. Okay. When you close your eyes at night and you see that, we're going to give you some tapping to do. Because as long as you see that, it's not going to work for you. Now, I'm wondering right now, as you see the picture in your mind, how does it look to you right now?
Oh, he's always going to be scary. He's always going to be very, very scary to me, but at least I'm not pinned to the wall.
Okay. So in this first thought, you were pinned, he was holding you against the wall. And
when I see him now, it does that to me, where I shut down completely. I don't function.
Okay.
I forget to breathe.
Right. Okay, now you're doing well. Now, notice what you're feeling in your body right now, 1 to 10. Just go back into your body and notice that anxiety, because we're talking about when he pins you to the wall. And tell me are you breathing now, okay?
I'm breathing now, yes.
And are you okay? Are you at a 1 with this?
I don't know that I'll ever be at a 1, but I'm closer to a 1 than the 8. So
we don't ever want you to feel like that's okay that happened, but we want you to be able to know that it's a memory. And you don't have to be caught in the moment.
It feels very, very real.
Right, and that's a common symptom of PTSD, is that inability to discern the difference between the there and then when it was happening, right? And the reaction was, don't breathe, don't do anything, you're going to get yourself in more trouble.
That's what I do. I shut down and I don't say anything, and if I'm quiet, maybe it'll go away.
Right, and that's a decent strategy. And you're the only one who can decide in that moment what's the right thing to do. But the problem we have now is that you're here now, and nobody's pinning you against the wall. And we wouldn't let that happen to you. You wouldn't let that happen to you at this point. So, but does your body know that?
No, it goes right back to that same place.
Okay, go back. Okay, now notice. Now we're talking about it a little bit different way. But again, try to go into the feeling and notice that your breathing is still there, but it's not at ease. I can see it's not at ease. Can you recognize that?
Yeah. So I'm breathing. That's a big step up.
And 3 or 4 is enough to work with, so we should do a little bit of work with it. So tap the side of your hand. Outside of eye. Eyes. Open your eyes. Look over here. Collarbone.
Overwhelming emotional tag that's linked to it.
Part of my way of coping with a lot of things is to block certain things, and when they come screaming back, if I have to think about them, oh my goodness, it's like non-functioning for me.
Yeah. And it's not something that we would want you to think about, but certain things you watch on TV might trigger.
Yeah, and I have certain things like, little events will trigger the big things to come back, and it's scary.
But if we're able to help eliminate that emotional link to it, the yuck factor doesn't stay, and you're not overwhelmed and unable to deal with whatever you're dealing with.
Now, Jenna, when you said those little things, you went there, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. See, and then your body gets triggered back into it. Let's take that. What do you know which little thing it was?
Yeah.
What was it? Can you tell us?
And it's just such a silly little thing. I told you about going to look at the puppies.
Okay. Now, before we go any further, you don't see, you're feeling it, and you're kind of stuck in that moment. Let's get you unstuck for you to tell the story.
Because it's another traumatic event.
So 1 to 10, how bad does it feel?
This one's a 10.
Right now, you feel okay. Let's tap it down.
Hearing one thing will trigger another memory and create kind of a...
Open your eyes. Look over here. Follow my hand around. 2. And because you're visual, just notice what happens to the picture in your mind as we go along, okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Over here. under here. And then we get index finger. Oh, I'm sorry, outside of eye. The order doesn't matter. Index finger, and it's on me to keep track of it. Okay. Little finger, middle finger, chin. Pull up the puppy picture again. I don't know the events, and I really don't need to. But the important thing is that you need to be able to remember that as a memory, not as an experience that's happening now. Okay?
No, the puppies are cute.
Now the puppies are cute. Oh, I like that much better. Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you feel? So the process of helping you be stronger in this moment is each time you find one of those trigger events, you need to tap to bring it down, to bring the emotion down, and also put that into a memory file, not into it's an happening file. Okay?
It's hard to distinguish when I feel like that.
Exactly. When you can't distinguish between, if you say to yourself, well, is this a memory or is this happening now? And you go, I can't tell. That's time to tap.
That's post-traumatic stress.
Right, that's exactly right. And that's the time that you would tap to bring down those triggers. The fewer, as we find the triggers and we reduce them, there's going to be less of them. Okay? And we want you to be able to be in the moment, be comfortable in your body, and to have a nice, calm mind to work with.
I would appreciate that, and my daughter would appreciate that too.
The calm mind, relaxed mind.
Yeah, because she can see when it comes, when I get the anxiety, she sees it in my face sometimes before I feel it.
And so what I would say to her is she's a really good measure, okay? So what I would do is say to her, so honey, you understand this 1 to 10 thing? She's old, was she 11?
She's going to be 11, yes.
Okay. So she will get 1 to 10. She'll get a scale, right? Okay? Smart kid. You can say, so when you see mommy getting upset, it's okay to say, mommy, are you at a 6? Are you at a 7? And what that will do is that gives her a way to communicate what she's seeing and what's going on for her, because when she sees that, it's scary. And when you hear that, then you'll know, oh, it's time to tap.
Yeah.
Anytime you get above, when you're at a 3 or 4, you can function okay. 5 or 6, it gets more difficult. 7 or 8 is like, you're just focused on whatever it is.
Yeah, and I can't get out of my head. And
Right.
that's why I feel like all I can do is tunnel vision is right there. I can't get past right here.
Which is a decent coping strategy if that's all you got. But you have something better here with thought field therapy. Okay? So you bring it back down. And she can help remind you of that. And that'll give her something to do when she's seeing you and she doesn't know what to say.
And leading to the domestic violence and the dissolving of the marriage that seems to be happening. From the day that you guys got married and you knew that there was something awry there, that it just wasn't a good decision, but you still tried to make it through. Throughout the marriage, you saw good and bad times that led to where we are today because of the experience of being a military family and everything. Can you share with us what actually you saw and what took place over periods of times? And, you guys even had a child,
When I first met him, he was all the things that I really wasn't myself. He was very confident. He was very outgoing. He could tell a good story. I'm kind of quiet and kind of stay to myself. I think I'm smart, but I don't always articulate my feelings very well. And he was just so flamboyant and outgoing, and if you meet him, he's very charismatic and people are drawn to him. And like I said, he was pretty much everything that I was not. So I thought we balanced each other really well.
Opposites attract.
We did, absolutely, and we had a good relationship. We had fun. He made me laugh. And our relationship progressed fairly fast. I mean, we lived together for a year and then had a child, then got married after that. We did it a little out of order, but we had our family. almost from the day we got married, literally on the day we got married, I found out some of the things that he had told me during our early days in our relationship. I found out they were not true. There was some deception, and at the time I figured that out, it was pretty much awe-inspiring. I couldn't believe it. But he deployed almost immediately after we got married, and I just tried to figure out a way to make the relationship work. And because I'd been in the military, for 10 years before I even met him, I made a lot of excuses, maybe for some of his bad behavior. I justified in my head why maybe he wasn't able to tell the truth, or why he had problems with alcohol, or why he just wasn't acting normally, because I thought, well, my goodness, some of the things that these military guys see, there's just no way that they can come back completely normal. There's going to be some problems, and I made a lot of excuses for some things that he did throughout the years.
Right.
And
then, so how many deployments did you go through with him?
More than I can count, and that's just crazy to think that. But he went everywhere from East Timor. I mean, he did in his early days Somalia. He'd been to Desert Storm. He'd been to Iraq probably 3 or 4 times in our relationship before he did the 13-month deployment. He'd been on the ship for 6 months at a time twice, plus all the workup. So he was gone a lot of our relationship.
And again, he's one of the premier Marine snipers, and that in and of itself, he knows how to take out the enemy.
He does. He's
Did
a very...
that ever scare you, in the fact that my husband is actually somebody who they call upon to take the enemy out?
It's a very awesome responsibility. It's a very scary reality. And it's something for somebody who's sitting on this side of the world who's not actually there. It's a very, very scary thought. It's hard for me to rationalize. It's hard for me to put into words and articulate how, for me, it feels. I know it's his job. I know that's what his responsibility is. That's what he's trained to do. But it's hard for me to justify the act itself. He stopped. He prayed. They trained him to shoot. They trained him to kill another human being. And how do I make peace with that? Because it's somebody's husband. It's somebody's child. It's somebody's brother. It's somebody's family member.
The enemy on the other side.
The enemy, that he's trained to kill. And I have a true faith in God. It's a very, very hard thing for me to have to deal with. A lot of it is, I try not to really think about it too terribly much, because I know that's his job, and I know that's what his whole purpose was to do. But how,
have a belief
and I have a belief in
freedom.
Protecting, maybe taking one life to save many.
Right.
A lot of times that was a way I could make peace with it in my head. They're taking out somebody who is perceived to be bad, or they're told is bad, to help the greater cause, whatever that cause was at that time.
But how did it affect you when you would see that anger and the violence start to happen in the home?
I became the enemy somewhere. Somewhere I became somebody he needed to compete against. I became the bad person. When he got angry, I was convenient.
Do you think that happens to many spouses?
I think so. I think more than people talk about.
Because in relationships on a good day without the military, often
they taught him to take the emotion out of things so he could do his job effectively. They trained him to be a mercenary of sorts. They trained him to be a killer.
Right.
And then bring him back here and dump him on our doorstep. That's a very, very scary thing for me.
Right.
because like I said before, I don't think he was angry at me. I was there. And
That combined with his
alcoholism and
medication,
the volatility, when he got back from this deployment in January 2009, I could see it progressively daily, really getting worse and worse and worse. Whether it was his aggressiveness toward me or situations, there was more scary anger with him this time around than there'd ever been before. Through our relationship, it had always been a little volatile when he drank. He was not a very good drunk. He was an angry drunk. You know, some people drink and they go to sleep. Some people drink, they get happy. My husband drank and he got angry. He'd get into fights with strangers. He was just angry. And this deployment, he got off that plane. I'm telling you, it was 5 months of just him just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse every day until it just exploded.
Okay, everybody, I've got my sidekick, Madison, here. So that's me. That's a little bit of my story. Please do, like I said, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to try to, if you guys are interested, delve more into it. You know, the story is very unique. It is almost unbelievable. I don't even think Lifetime could pick it up and tell it in a way. But I just thought that, you know, since it was there, I might as well use it. It's on YouTube, and I had really forgotten I had done it. Isn't that the craziest thing is when you do something like a documentary and then life gets so crazy and out of control and unbelievable that you don't even remember you do it. There were times where, you know, I kind of left my body, and they talk about that some in the session. You know, some of it was a little bit leading, and I don't really like the way some of it went, which is why I kind of cut some of those scenes out. But that's it. You know, therapists need therapists too. So if you're struggling with trauma, I do encourage you to reach out for help. If the first one you go to doesn't work, the second one you go to doesn't work, you got to find somebody you can trust. You know, it's so important. Like I said, you know, they tried to guide me, you know, and they did the best they could, but they even admitted they didn't really know what trauma felt like. So, and it was in early days, and they didn't really know me, and they didn't know the history, and I didn't really talk about it because I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. There were times where, you know, I wanted to say, I knew all along it was bad. I wanted to say he lied all along, it was that bad, but I couldn't. I wasn't in a position because I wasn't really quite sure if he was going to see it while I was still accessible. But I'm safe now. And Madison is my bestest friend, and we're doing okay. But, you know, it's a hard thing to describe what it feels like. And like I said, trauma feels different to everyone else, but that's a little bit about how I felt at that time. There's been ups and downs and all arounds, but that's my story. And it, like I said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know so much more now, and I've used it as maybe motivation, and it's encouraged me to learn more. I mean, I went back to college and got a degree in psychology so I could make sense of it all. But, you know, that's it. I'm going to put my contact information at the end of this. So if you have any questions, please do comment. You know, I love discussion. Even just to be a voice, just a voice. You know, let's give this a forum where we can talk about it in a safe way. You know, and, you know, I've got a lot of military friends because I was in the military lifestyle for a long time. And really, I hope this video didn't come across as being judgmental. The military was my family. They saved me. When things got bad, they rallied and they kept me safe. So, military service is noble. It's maybe why I stayed as long as I did in a very awful relationship, because I wanted to make a difference and I didn't understand. I thought that was my duty as a military wife. So anyway, that's it. So please do, like I said, subscribe, like, and follow along. And if you think this would be helpful, or if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. So take care, and Madison, see you later.